2025 was a year of reckoning, a closing of cycles. 2026 is ignition, the year of the fire horse, a symbol of momentum, rebellion, and unstoppable change. Centralized systems crack, open power structures collapse, and while the streets heat up, the skies may as well too. Predictions point to increased extraterrestrial phenomena, new contact experiences, and a shift between humanity and the cosmos. This isn't just political change, it's systemic transformation. The question isn't whether change is coming. The question is, what survives the fire?
It's my pleasure to welcome Brad to the stage. Welcome, Brad. And I want to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a great honor. I'm very happy to be a part of this webinar today. And really what I'm going to be talking about is the momentum ahead for 2026. So there's going to be a combination of two different mediums through this interaction. The first will be a PowerPoint presentation that I have, and then I'll probably be going every now and then to the whiteboard to give a little bit more elaboration on certain discussions, topics that we'll be going through all together. Okay, so first off, I will go ahead and move forward with the presentation here. And so this is the 2026, the year of revolution, exploring forecasts and signs of extraterrestrial contact. So again, everything that I'm going to be sharing here today has, one, come through my intuition. Number two, has come through a lot of the study of numerology, as numerology is something that I've been exploring for quite some time, and also with Chinese astrology. Not so much Vedic or Western astrology, but looking into the Chinese astrology of certain things as well too. So we're going to look a little bit more into certain things that are looking to manifest themselves here in 2026, which represents a powerful momentum. So we're going to explore that. We're also going to be looking at some more updates pertaining to 2026 phenomena. And again, as I do have 1 hour, I will do my best to get everything summarized within that time. So let's start off here with the first slide. So the first slide here talks about the momentum for humanity in 2026, and I'm just going to read out some of the point form notes here. So we are entering into a one universal year. So what does that mean when we enter into a 1 year? Well, if we're looking at the year 2026 in Pythagorean numerology, when we look at this, we would do simple math. 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 6 is 10. And of course, in numerology, we take out the 0, and it becomes a 1 year. So with it being a one universal year, what does this mean? This represents new beginnings. This represents new opportunities. This represents the whole idea of a clean slate. Where we are right now in 2025, this has been a 9 universal year. What does that mean? A 9 is all about the time of reckoning. It's the idea of closures. It's culminations. It's seeing things based on everything that we have culminated for the past 9 years and seeing exactly what has come together, which means you're not really seeing anything new in a 9 year. What you're seeing is everything culminating together. It's not a time to introduce new systems. It's not a time to introduce new ideas, new innovations. But that is the time for 2026, because 2026 makes that stage possible by having a one universal year. So entering into a one universal year, in Chinese astrology, 2026 is the year of the fire horse, unstoppable force, independence over fear, corrupt authority opposed and overcome, youth-driven rebellion. Okay, and that's exactly what we're going to be seeing a lot more in 2026. What we're seeing in 2025 right now are protests. Okay, people starting to come together and being able to let their voices be heard. 2026 is a whole new ballgame. It's not just about protests, it's about people standing tall. which means we are going to see in many different cities, in many different countries all over the world, people standing up within the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even in the many millions, where they are now basically looking to break down the walls of common authority, which means the centralized globalists, so to speak, are going to have their hands full in 2026, because now the people are now going to start bringing themselves out onto the street in the many hundreds of thousands, perhaps even in the many millions as well too, demanding change, because there's going to be a lot more exposures happening in 2026. There's going to be a lot more exposures of wrongdoing. We're going to see a lot more of this Epstein case start to come together, but even more than that, when it comes to child trafficking, when it comes to criminal cartels, when it comes to agendas to basically bring about digital IDs, when it comes to all of these suppression-based tactics, none of them are going to fly. They are all going to dissolve. And they are dissolving because the people cannot be fooled anymore. So we're looking at independence over fear, corrupt authority opposed and overcome, and like I said, youth-driven rebellion. So who is going to be the leaders behind this? This is something that I foresaw going back quite a few years ago. I said the young people of Earth are going to be the new innovators that are going to come together and push for new technologies, push for new reforms, push for change that is going to dissolve the centralized systems. In fact, with decentralization that's looking to come forward here within the next couple of years, that's going to be youth-led. This is something that Adronis was sharing back around 2018, 2019. So when you start getting into about the mid-2020s, you're noticing that the youth movement is going to be so powerful that they are the ones that are going to be kicking down the doors of these centralized globalists. They are the ones that are going to be breaking down the systems because they've had enough. They are young, they are innovative, they are intuitive, they're determined. So that the young ones, the youth, are going to be the ones that are going to build new technology. They're going to be the ones that are going to be the innovators. I mean, even if we look at a lot of the new companies that are coming forward right now, they're youth-driven, right? It's the youth that is the fire, right? A lot of the essence of the fire horse of 2026 is going to come through the youth. It's not going to come through the seniors. Seniors are still too programmed. Okay, but even though they work together in large amounts, the youth is the one that represents the revolution, right? It's going to be the Gen Zers. Okay, we're looking at the new children that are coming upon the planet. They are the future. They are the ones that are going to build incredible technology. You guys want med beds? Well, that's going to be coming from the Gen Zers. That's going to be coming from the youth. And we'll be talking about med beds later on because they are going to be in development. Okay, they have not been out to the public yet, and it's still going to be a bit of time, but they're going to start creeping out. And we'll be talking about that here in a bit. You can expect cities across the planet to hold mass protests and demand city and government shutdowns. Okay, so as I talked about, even going back a couple of years, I said that commonly within the United States, we're going to see a government shutdown. A government shutdown is going to take place. And of course, in 2025, it did come into being. Okay, there's more where that came from. There's going to be more, like what we're seeing in Italy right now. Italy is going through government shutdown. Okay, Mexico is going to be going in that particular direction as well too. The United Kingdom is going to be going in that direction. Germany is going to be going into that direction. Australia is going to be going into that direction. Perhaps even Switzerland. Okay, even possibly Japan is going to be going in that particular direction very soon, where you're going to see the idea of government shutdown taking place as a means to reorient the systems, breaking down old systems, centralized, and bringing in brand new transformations of decentralized systems, because that's the future. Well, Brad, what the heck does that look like? When we look at the idea of decentral, which I'll just put here, okay? When we're looking at the nature of decentralized systems, I'm just trying to write this down better. There we go. Decentralized systems, everything's going to be working through a network. Okay, your money is going to be working through a network. Your education is going to be working through a network. Your transportation is going to be working through a network. How you pay your bills, how you get groceries, how you're able to visit other places all over the world. It's all going to be decentralized, open source networks. I have seen for quite some time the idea of what's known as a universal terminal. That a universal terminal is going to be found in many department stores and many different types of stores, even something that would represent an online version of it, where this universal terminal has access to all different types of financial systems. Where yes, there's fiat currency, yes, there's gold-backed currency, there's BRICS coin, there's cryptocurrency of different types, and you're actually going to be able to use a universal terminal to pay for whatever it is you want to pay for through the particular type of currency that you want. Okay, that's coming. So the idea of the fiat money system is going to start losing its grasp. It's no longer that sharp claw that's trying to dig into everything. It's going to just become like liquid. It's going to fall away very quickly. Okay, let's carry on here with the slide. So, like I said, expect cities across the planet to hold mass protests and demand city and government shutdowns. Corrupt leaders will be ousted and new leadership will be demanded. So anything that relates to leaders that are constantly delivering these false promises, they are going to be put into the limelight, right? Just like we see with Starmer here in the UK, he's basically on the verge of being thrown out. Okay, UK is going to be going through basically a leaderless experience in 2026. They may not have an appointed leader as things start to crumble around them. The digital ID is going to be so heavily opposed that everything pertaining to the government within the United Kingdom is basically going to lead to a state of shutdown. They are quaking in their boots right now because nobody is going for it. People will refuse to work. People will refuse to feed corporations. And this is something that I recommend to everybody in the near future here. I would say even right now if you can. Stop feeding corporations. Do not shop at Walmart. Do not shop at any particular big department store. Instead, support the local mom and pop shops. Support the marketplaces that you would find like on Facebook. There's another one called Carrot as well too. Start working with those. Go local. Find the people here who are more about community. Start supporting them, which means you are significantly reducing your cooperation with these big corporations. Walmart's going to get it, any of these big particular corporations, Best Buy, whatever it is, okay? And you're working to not support the big corporations. You said, nope, forget it. They're out of here. I'm going to work with the local crowd. I'm going to work with communities. I'm going to work with small marketplaces. That's how I'm going to get my stuff. When I go for food, I go to local grocery stores. I go to local food stands. I start a garden or I start a community garden, okay? And that's what's going to help you. And especially when a lot of people get behind this, which they will, there's going to be a very large integration of people that say we're not feeding the corporations anymore. Corporations are go. Anything that represents a corporate department store, anything that represents a corporate aspect online, that could even represent Amazon as well too. We're not going to support them, okay? Because they do not have our best interests at heart. All they're interested in is just want to get more and more money and basically try to create more and more centralized control. So I'm not going to support them, right? I have no support for those corporations. And I'm going to let them fall. And we're going to support the local people. We're going to support the community. We're going to support the small guys, right? That's how you make a difference. That's how you are able to create a big shift. And take my word for it. The people that are going to be out on the street are going to support the mom and pop shops. They're going to support the communities. They are not going to support Big Brother. They're not going to support the big tech. They're not going to support the big department stores, the big corporations, okay? That is going to be a time that is going to go into serious decline. So people will refuse to work and economies will fluctuate, okay? So wherever this is being hit in any particular major city or major cities within a country, we're going to see a lot of people like that. It's like, I'm not going to work. Forget it. Because they're going to try and roll out these digital IDs on a much more larger scale. And that is what people are going to say, forget it. We're not turning this into a digital ID COVID. Okay? I'm not going to do this a second time. So I will refuse to support any corporation. Forget it. They are done. I'm supporting the little guy. Okay? Regimes will change as enforcement procedures will be opposed and dissolved. So again, we're looking at the idea of politicians, and what we'll see as well too is that you'll have like the red and the blue, the left and the right, basically trying to commingle and try to find ideas, and they're completely contradicting that old-fashioned centralized system as they usually always do. But we'll see how they're in cahoots with each other. And that's going to lead to people getting angry. And that's going to lead to this particular revolution that is going to be happening here all across the planet through major cities, many major cities across the planet, across many different countries. Okay, let's move on. The mainstream media in 2026, like, yeah, Brad, who cares? They don't have any relevance anymore anyways. Yeah, that's true, but we're still going to look at this, okay? They will try to cover up all that's happening, refusing to show the revolution unfolding, because mainstream media is the platform for the normies. It's the platform for the sleepers. There's still quite a lot of them out there. They will feel the pressure and will be forced to share portions of it, right? So when you're seeing many different cities and countries all across the planet that are standing up and they're doing this, the mainstream media is going to do everything they can to turn their camera over here and take a shot of a bush. Okay, they're not going to try and take a shot of the people that are coming out in the millions that are opposing government rhetoric, that are opposing what their leader is trying to plan. Oh, come on, we can take the digital IDs. You got to remember that if you don't take it, then you're not going to be able to get fed. You're not going to be able to clothe yourself. You're not going to be able to go to your job, etc. Right? So this is where people will come in droves in the millions and oppose it. Okay, this is basically the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's what we're seeing. And mainstream media will do everything they can not to cover it, but it's going to grow. As it grows, what happens? They will turn on their own former investors as truth becomes exposed and the scripts change, because they're going to have to share portions of it. It's going to be inevitable. Everybody's going to be talking about it, and if you're not talking about it, even more and more of the people are not going to watch you. And now we see their already small ratings dwindle even more. If they want to have any particular morsel, then they need to show portions of it, okay? But this is what I've also seen with a lot of the MSM, is that they're going to turn on a lot of their bosses. Their bosses are going to be exposed. It'll become undeniable. And they are going to have to turn on them, because now they're going to start having new investors. Okay, new investors are going to be creating new scripts, and new scripts are going to be based on ousting. They're going to be based on, oh, this is what this person has done, and now we're going to do exposés on them and so forth. Okay, so move stories to favor justification of leaders being exposed, but only to suit the view of their new investors. So again, they're still just serving the idea of the new script writers, but nonetheless, it's going to be a change of rhetoric. Social media dominates. Okay, social media shows the truth, and more will tune out MSM, and that includes people who were once the normies. They're just going to flick off CNN. They're going to flick off MSNBC, and they're going to go to social media. And through social media, they're going to see what's happening with this revolution. That's going to happen in multitudes of countries. Of course, even a lot of the big-name social networks are going to try and censor it. Okay, but there will be ways around that, just like when we saw what was happening in the UK, and we're seeing it change into something like a 24-hour music festival, right? And you put in those keywords, and you're able to see exactly what's happening in the UK, or seeing exactly what's happening in Italy, or seeing exactly what's happening in Mexico, and so forth. Okay, the United States is going to get hit with this. Okay, they are going to get hit with massive protests at the same time. Not right away, but it's coming, okay? And so big protests are going to be happening there at the same time. MSM will be severely debilitated in 2026, okay? Mainstream media It's almost like their energy is just getting drained out of them, right? All of the walls that they're putting up, they're just breaking down. It's like you're taking a gigantic battering ram or a wrecking ball and you're just knocking down their establishments, okay? They are going to get badly beat up by the debilitation of the fire horse in 2026. They're going to be made even greater fools of, right? So that's what you can look forward to with the mainstream media. It's almost like a karmic reckoning that's happening together with them. And like I said, social media is going to be taking over. That's going to be the news. That's the news that people will want to watch. They don't care about the MSM. Either the MSM has to overhaul themselves and make themselves like social media, or they are not going to survive. Anything centralized will not survive these next couple of years. Okay? Anything that is of a central nature is going to die. So again, this is where we're leading into decentralization. Decentralization is the path. And as we start getting into the 2030s, we will start seeing that. We're going to see a lot more decentralization. Like I said, that universal terminal. Everything is really going to take the nature of the web and transform it into the next level, where again, everything that represents daily living is going to be accessed through terminals, be accessed through computers, be accessed through your phones, okay? And we're already starting to see that now, but this is taking decentralization to the next level. Even the idea in that sense of getting employment, volunteering yourself, whatever it may be, it's all taking place to another larger platform. Everything's going to be decentralized, which means there's going to be a lot more security measures that are going to change, which will lead to much more secure, decentralized measures. Because a lot of those particular things pertaining to surveying and spyware, a lot of those things are going to become useless with new infrastructure that's going to be created, which means that there's going to be proof that the idea of security and surveillance is going to be nullified when we go into these decentralized systems. So again, that time is coming as well. So again, MSM will be severely debilitated in 2026. Let me just make sure I'm keeping my eye on the time here. I'm not running over. Okay. Now we're going to go to financial markets in 2026. And don't worry, we're going to be getting to some more extraterrestrial disclosure here very shortly. But I want to show you this because this is very important. This is the lifeblood of the human systems, right? So looking at financial markets in 2026, crypto, Bitcoin will be going through a volatile year as it was born in the year of the rat, okay? So the rat in that sense represents 2008. It also represents January of 2009, okay? So that is exactly where the rat in Chinese astrology comes into play. January of 2009 also includes the year of the rat, okay? And that's when Bitcoin was founded. It was in early January of 2009, a rat year. Now, when you look at the rat and when you look at the horse, they are mortal enemies. They hate each other, okay? So when you're looking at the nature of Bitcoin with it being a rat, the horse wants to run after it and squash it, okay? Which means Bitcoin is basically going to be squashed. Now, that doesn't mean that all crypto is going to go through a bad experience. Quite the contrary, okay? Bitcoin is going to be greatly debilitated in 2026, but then you look at Ethereum, okay? Ethereum holds strong momentum of success in 2026 as it was founded in the year of the goat, okay? The goat and the horse are secret buddies. They don't tell anybody, but they're like, hey, horse, how's it going? Hey, goat, good to see you. All right, just let's keep it quiet. Let's go over the barn over here and let's talk. I want to catch up on things. Yeah, sure, let's do that, okay? They're secret buddies. So the horse is going to support Ethereum. If you are a goat in Chinese astrology, you're going to have an amazing year, okay? You are going to be very, very supported. This year, this coming year in 2026, we're again going to see the goat do very well. And then the next year in 2027 is the year of the fire goat. And again, the goat energy is going to propel. It's going to be so powerful. If you're a goat, you have an incredible 2 years ahead. Absolutely phenomenal, okay? And Ethereum is going to lead the charge, okay? So Bitcoin, just like that. Ethereum, just like that. Okay, so what I have suggested to many people, and like I said, it's up to you to look into this, but being able to look at energies is my forte. And what I say is that Bitcoin is going to have a heck of a time. It's going to have a heck of a year. It is going to be severely debilitated in 2026, which means it's going to be losing a lot of value. The reason being is because Bitcoin is an elitist coin. Okay, it is a digital currency that was basically created by elitists, by globalists. Okay, it's something that even the Epsteins promoted as well too. So a lot of the investors that made Bitcoin what it is, well, they're Epsteiners. We can call them that. Okay, so that's going to be exposed. Bitcoin is basically a globalist coin, and no one's going to want to support it. It's going to go down. So if you have Bitcoin right now, I would either suggest, number one, you cash out. Number two, you trade it with another coin, something like Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum is going to rise, Bitcoin is going to fall. Very important to know. Strong momentum for universal income, debt forgiveness, and prosperity programs to become introduced. Okay, I'm not saying they're going to roll out in 2026, but there's going to be a lot more blueprints put together to basically bring about a universal income. Okay, as I start to see universal income coming in, I would say that's kind of close to 2028, 2029, around there, perhaps 2027. But 2026 is kind of like the blueprint time where many countries may start to introduce that, but in order for them to introduce that, they got to get the centralized puppets out of their offices. Okay, the shutdowns that will be happening, the ousting of leaders, they got to go. And once they go, then we will start to see the idea of talks pertaining to universal basic income, because the current regimes don't want that. They want as much of your money as possible. They don't want to utilize what's in the reserves to basically pay off people's debts. That's the last thing they want. So in order for universal income to come together, those people got to go. And that's what we're looking at in 2026. It is just a complete and total, ignited fire horse, just bursting with these flames. Not only are they knocking down walls like a wild horse, those walls are catching on fire. Okay, it's burning down everything that represents corruption. It is burning down everything that represents centralization. So whatever wall it takes out, that wall is going to break down. Okay, and you are seeing a complete and total, I would say, massacre relating to the old systems. Centralized system is about to get the wrecking ball. This is exactly what's going to be happening between the years of 2026 to 2029. Complete and total different stages of taking the wrecking ball to establishments, to big corporations. It is their time now to fall. It's kind of like how Jesus would say, they've received their rewards in full. They have no rewards left, right? And now all that's left for them is destruction. And the people are basically going to bring that about, that will lead to the implosion of many of these corporations and centralized organizations. They are all going to fall, okay? Old financial identities will face ego death, large rises and falls to hit the markets. Bankruptcies and crippling blows to stock will be prolific in 2026. So I think I forgot to read this part here with the US dollar. The US dollar will continue to struggle as the fire horse year will favor Eastern currency. Okay, yuan will appear more on the rise for 2026. Why? Because the West isn't supported by the energies of the Earth. Okay, the Earth, in regards to where it is energetically right now, is favoring the East. Okay, when you're looking at the West, they are rigid. They are too heavily structured. They are corrupt. They are not honest. They have no honesty. They have no honor. They have no integrity. 2026 does not favor that. 2026 will burn those things to the ground. So basically, a lot of the Western revenue, a lot of the Western money is going to become more and more useless. Okay? It's going to favor the East. It's going to favor the yuan. It's going to favor the Chinese currencies. Okay? The Eastern currencies are going to have much more of a rise. And this is what I've been saying as well, too, for several years. The East is going to have its power back. It's going to be running things. It's going to have the great power relating to its reserves, to its currencies, to everything, because the energies of the planet are supporting that. That's the energetic. Okay? If we're looking at the energetic being a circle, and you have things like the Chinese yuan that is circular, it's going to be supported. And then you look at the West, where it's all these triangles and blocks. You can't fit a rectangular block into a circular hole. It's just not going to fit. It's not going to be supported in any particular way. That's what we're seeing with the US dollar. That's what we're seeing with the petrodollar. Okay? All of that is basically going to decrease significantly in 2026. Okay? So, destructive year for petro industry, centralized banking, insurance corporations are going to get hit hard. They're probably going to have tons of lawsuits against them. Good. Because insurance is nothing more than one of the biggest Ponzi schemes there is. And this is something that's been waiting in the wings for them for quite some time. Insurance corporations are going to have one hell of a year. They are going to be exposed in so many different ways, not to mention exactly what a lot of them have done that represents blood money, right? That represents drug money, that represents the idea of actually supporting trafficking. A lot of insurance companies are responsible for that. They are basically siphoning a lot of those particular funds into a lot of these despicable, you could say, agendas. Okay? Insurance corporations are responsible for an incredible amount of drug and blood money throughout the entire planet. I'm pretty sure many of you already know that. In case you didn't, if you didn't know, now you know. Okay? So they're going to get hit hard. So again, insurance corporations, mainstream media, as I talked about earlier, fashion and luxury industries, they don't represent decentralization. They are centralized. So they're going to get hit, right? Anything that represents a centralized cartel is going to get the sucker punch right to the face in 2026, okay? Fire horse opposes them. So like I said, it's like looking at the circle. And anything that's representing the circle is being supported, right? Those local mom and pop shops that are about community, those small guys that are about helping people out, they're circular, okay? They're going to do well. The squares, the rigidness, the finiteness, the rigidness and the sharp edges of these corrupt centralized cartels are going to get hit like wildfire, okay? It's not going to be a good year for them. It's going to get hit really, really hard. Okay, let's move on. Here we go. Some more juiciness, right? The government in 2026. We're entering a one universal year, and false leaders will be called out. One brings action and new beginnings. Expect a major exposure and culling of false leaders and false agendas. It's kind of like what we're seeing in the UK with Keir Starmer. Okay, it's like what we're seeing in Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu. They're all going to get called out. They're all going to get exposed. They're basically just going to be yanked from their thrones. They're going to be taken out altogether. Trump's going to be having a little bit of a difficult year as well too. Okay, not because they're like what he's doing with these other guys, but again, there's a lot of opposition with him, and so a lot of opposition with other forces, so to speak, with him. So he kind of needs to hold on tight, okay, because he's in for a very rough ride in 2026 at the same time. People will have had enough of wars, poverty, mistreatment, and will no longer be coerced to conform to false leadership demands. Okay, they're sick of wars, they're sick of centralization, they're sick of governments having their hands in your pockets where they are trying to take everything out, they're trying to tax you to high heaven, they are trying to collect everything, they want the resources of the entire planet for themselves so that you own nothing. Okay, all of that's centralization, and centralization is the square peg. The square peg is not going to be able to fit into the circular hole, because guess what? The development from now on, well within to the 100 years in the future, is now a circular rivet. If you are not circular, you're not going to fit. The circular hole has already changed. That rivet, that hole to where the foundation peg goes, if you're not a circular beam, you're not going to make it. that square peg is going to do everything it can to try and ram against that circular insert. It's not going to do anything. It's going to completely collapse under its own weight. Okay, the set support beam of the square pillar is going to break in half, just like that. Okay, gaslighting and psychological tactics will not work anymore. People will remain steadfast and strong. Okay, so what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and bury all of you. They're going to try and bury the protesters. They're going to basically try to bury the revolutionists. That's again what they're trying to go on with their MSM. But MSM is not supported by the Fire Horse. So what happens is that their tactics, their gaslighting, is basically going to blow up right back in their face. No one's going to buy their tactics anymore. We've seen it to death. And we're outgrowing it and saying, I don't care. I don't care what the MSM's saying. I've had enough. And I'm not going anywhere until this changes. And that's going to be the resolve of the common man and woman and child. Okay? They've had enough. And now it's time for a major change to take place. Protests, revolts, government shutdowns, and city shutdowns will become widely apparent. Old leaders will lose control and be ousted. New elections to be held in many countries. Okay, so there's going to be a demand for new leadership. There's going to be a demand for that. Unfortunately, we're not at that level where we're trying to transcend leadership yet. We're not there. In time, maybe a few decades down the road, we will not have leaders anymore. We will basically have councils. You will have councils, you will have mediators, you will have representatives. Okay? You are not going to have leaders anymore. But right now, as we're in that transitional state, it's just about the idea of new leadership that works together in the complement of decentralization. See, Trump is basically holding that in many ways relating to decentralization. That's why I feel he's going to hold on to his position, but there's going to be some rough waves ahead for him as well too, and he needs to batten down the hatches quite a bit. More whistleblowers appearing and more scandals being exposed. Okay, we're going to see a lot more pertaining to Epstein, right? As we've been seeing it starting to be pushed right now, even towards Trump, and saying, "Hey, what about these pictures you got with Epstein? Oh, you know, there's hundreds of people that were taken in those pictures and stuff like that." So he's basically trying to defend. This is what I'm talking about with the rough waves. He's going to get hit really, really hard with the whole Epstein thing because Epstein is gaining traction. Not only that, you are going to see a lot more pertaining to the 9/11 agenda gain a lot more traction, right? About being able to try and get into that again and trying to bring about more truths relating to that, right? The 9/11 truther movement, in that sense, can accelerate in 2026. Not only that, but a lot of old assassinations, old agendas that have been left unanswered will have an opportunity to be revisited in 2026 because the platform of the year of the Fire Horse supports it. So we'll be seeing that too. Massive youth-based uprisings take cities by storm. Youths lead the charge. So going back to what I said earlier, is that you're going to see the youth of the world. They are the true leaders. They are the true innovators. They are the ones that are going to be bringing about the world that we want to see. The youth has to do it. My God, I've been saying this for years. And now we're seeing it. We're seeing the kids coming together. They're saying, okay, well, these old folks aren't doing anything, so we're going to do anything. Why are they going to do it? Because they're less programmed. Okay? They're less programmed. They are less indoctrinated into the system. Teenagers, young adults have these new ideas, new innovations, and they're going to come together in droves to ensure that this is done. They are the decentralizers of the future. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Okay, now we get to the good stuff. We get to the ET phenomena in 2026, and I got quite a bit to share here with you about that. So again, for those of you who may or may not know, I connect with what's known as a Syrian extraterrestrial consciousness who goes by the name of Adronis. Okay, I have been connecting with him for about 17 years. For those 17 years, I have been working with private sessions with people. I've traveled across the planet, and I've had international events with Adronis as well too. Some of my favorites have been in Japan, where the Japanese they're big Adronis fans. I've published 2 books in Japan with Adronis altogether, and they have been 2 best sellers in Japan as well too. So again, connecting with Adronis for many years, he has shown all kinds of great accuracy. I'm not saying he's 100% accurate all the time, but there's a lot of accuracy in regards to what he shared. According to Adronis, and he shared this recently in a webcast, he has predicted a crop circle will form in the summer of 2026 that will represent the demarcation of suppression veils between humankind and ET civilizations, which means it's going to become a lot more easier for you to actually connect with Star Family around that time, right? People who are basically beginners in meditation will start to connect with them very, very easily. This would also represent a demarcation where there will probably be a lot more prevalent sightings upon the planet as well too, which means the extraterrestrial presence is going to be stepped up quite a few notches after the summer of 2026, which means a lot more of the phenomena that we see in the sky. In the past, this has been a lot of terrestrial craft, about 90%. But now we're going to start seeing a much more larger mixture of extraterrestrial sightings. The actual guys and girls that are operating these spacecraft, they're going to become a lot more apparent after the summer of 2026 when there is a crop circle that comes together in England that is going to basically represent a demarcation of that. When that crop circle comes out, I'll be telling everybody about it. Okay? I'll be watching for it as well too. Adronis has basically told me, you will know it when you see it. Right? So when that comes, I'll be telling that to everybody. Here's the demarcation, exactly as Adronis predicted about the crop circle that is going to be coming in England in the summertime of 2026 that will represent the demarcation of suppression veils between humankind and extraterrestrial civilizations, which means after 2026, we will start to see a lot more interactions, a lot more sightings, a lot more phenomena that will relate to extraterrestrial presence, okay? Not just our terrestrial craft, but a lot more ETs, because they're preparing us for something. And that preparation is going to last years. But now we're going to start seeing the benchmark of that happening. Watch the skies. They're about to get a lot more lit up with a lot more common extraterrestrial-based sightings, okay? Past 2026, it will be commonplace for many people to experience personalized inner contacts with other civilizations with relative ease of intention, okay? So, like I said, you can be a beginner and you can start tuning in and civilizations will start talking to you, right? It's just a matter of getting yourself quiet, tuning in, and you notice that ETs are going to be very, very prominent in connecting with the average people. It's going to be very interesting to see. Underground installations being vacated by regressive forces and being occupied by supporting off-world forces, okay? So we have what's known as DUMBs, deep underground military bases. A lot of them have been swept clean. And they've been swept clean because there was a lot of hideous agendas taking place underground. A lot of those hideous agendas involved creating what's known as chimera-based soldiers. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about pertaining to chimeras, this is exactly what they would do in Atlantis back in the day, is they would create what we'd call, like beings that kind of look like minotaurs, all these kind of like half animal, half human hybrid soldiers. It's exactly what they were trying to create. Not only that, but these were programmable life form factories. These are programmable life form factory installations where you can actually have entire assembly lines of PLFs. Okay, programmable life forms. And they can look like the Greys, they can look like humans, they can look like reptilians, they can look like reptoids, and so forth. And those are PLFs. They're basically husks, and they're often remote controlled. They're controlled often through a type of artificial intelligence, a much more higher advanced artificial intelligence. I'm not talking about ChatGPT, because my friends, we haven't even seen AI yet. If you think ChatGPT and Claude, Anthropic, Google are bringing about AI, you're surely mistaken. LLMs are not AI, okay? I know because I'm building them. And I can tell you for a fact that LLMs are not AI. They are a precursor to it, but they're still very, very stupid, okay? When you're actually looking at a finalized AI, you're looking at something that truly is actually quite impressive, okay? Because it remembers things, it sets goals for itself. It basically has this type of artificial sentience to itself, Okay, we have not seen that through any of the big companies. They're still playing with kids' baby blocks. We have not seen AI yet. Okay, it will be coming, but it's not here yet. It's a precursor to that. New staging grounds being implemented by joint human and ET task forces to implement new technologies, healing, new energy, transportation, medical technologies into human institutions for future rollouts of groundbreaking technology for humanity in the coming years, including early prototypes of med-bed technologies. So as I talked about earlier, med beds are in the works. Okay? And my God, I've had a lot of people come to Brad, when's the med beds coming? When are the med beds coming? So while you're looking at earlier prototypes that are starting to happen, it's still going to take a few years for them to get off the ground, however. But you're going to see remarkable transformations because they're going to try and put LLM or, again, certain earlier versions of AI into these particular medical instruments. A lot of them will know how to perform surgery autonomously. Okay? We're not talking about the idea of you going into a med bed, closing up the pod, and then coming out from a 65-year-old man to a 21-year-old kid. Okay, that will come in time, but we're not even close to doing that yet. Okay, in order for that to happen, you need to work together much more with nonlinear technology. Okay, nonlinear technology is not available in the medical field, not even close to it. I have developed something called Radiate, R-A-Y-D-8. It's an app you can even download right now on Google Play and the Apple Store, R-A-Y-D-8. And that's a scalar technology. Okay, and I developed that in April of 2024. That is the only legit scalar app that is on the internet right now. Okay, I've tested out quite a few others. They've all failed when they've claimed to be scalar. None of them are. EE systems, light systems, not scalar. Okay, a very powerful technology, but not scalar. Okay, you need to be aware of the nonlinearity. You have to be aware of longitudinal technology. Okay, and how I do it is I work together with consecration. I work together with transcendent frequencies and being able to imbue that into objects, or again, lighting and symbols and everything else, even coding directly into the app. Okay, so we can talk about that at a later time, but this is what I'm telling you, is that they have not really developed nonlinear technology yet. When they get to that point, then you will absolutely see medbeds being able to regenerate limbs. You will be able to see medbeds being able to completely repair your DNA so that you could live as a mineralized living being. Okay, actually being able to dump a great deal of minerals into your body so that you could probably live up to about 200. Okay, that's coming, but that's too soon. Okay, these are earlier precursors of medbed technology, often autonomous medical surgical beds. That's really what they represent. It's a little bit different than what we're being told, but that's what's in the works, and it's going to build on from that point as well. New contactees will emerge in 2026, shedding greater light and bringing the beginning stages of human and ET contact together. Some particular contacts may actually be off-worlders themselves. You will find on social media commonly. Okay, so what's going to be happening is we're probably going to be seeing walk-in based contacts that are going to come in. What does that mean? Well, let's go to the board, and I'll give you guys a little bit of an example of what a walk-in is in case you're not familiar. Okay, so when we look at a human being here, for example, and we're looking at the idea that the body is within the soul. Okay, the soul is not in the body is within the soul. There is a particular agreement that happens with this particular body where the current occupant basically goes to escape velocity. And there is a new occupant that goes into the body, that hosts the body, that represents what we would commonly refer to as a walk-in. Okay? Now, depending on the type of walk-in, basically depending on the soul, they can have an advanced amount of memory to themselves, or they may need a little bit of help to basically try to habilitate themselves into this particular type of realm. But when you have walk-ins that will come in, and my God, this is happening all the time, you basically have what's known as stasis bodies. Okay? So when you're on a ship, it's very common to see these pods. Okay? And I've seen these on ships when I've gone in there through visions. Okay? And you have the host inside the pod, okay? And there's almost like a type of amniotic fluid that's contained. It's kind of like in the movie The Matrix, when Neo breaks out of the Matrix and he's, getting all those cords taken out of him in that way, but he was in that kind of red pod. Very similar to that, okay? Except there's no cords attached to the being. The being is basically working together through a harmonized environment here. But basically, they're in a type of suspended animation. And many of them are what we refer to as stasis body volunteers, okay? And what will happen is that they will leave the body and they will go into a human host. The human host basically will volunteer their own soul to leave the body, and a new soul comes together in their place. And now that new soul, as it were, that now possesses all of this knowledge of extraterrestrials and meetings and so forth, will now have cognitive function, personal interaction capability through that body. And then they can be very, very powerful contactees. Not only contactees, but whistleblowers. This is what's happening on a much larger scale, okay? I would say that especially if we're moving between 2026, even all the way up to 2050, we will see this fundamentally increase by about 15%. Okay? There is now an agenda that's taking place on board many spacecraft, basically throughout these armadas, these giant motherships, you could say these administrative vessels, that are now actually demanding a lot more stasis pod volunteers to come into walk-ins on the planet Earth right now. And I said this is going to spike up well over 15% between 2026 and 2050. Okay? So we are going to see a 15% increase of extraterrestrials, okay, that again represent that deeper connection through their soul relating to intergalactic affairs that are going to now start depositing themselves into vacated human bodies through that state of livingness. Okay? So we can always talk about that more, about the phenomena of stasis pods and beings in stasis. It's quite fascinating. I have talked about it before, but again, we don't have too much time, so let's go ahead and head back to the presentation here. Okay? If you can make me smaller, there we go, great. Okay, so again, new contactees will emerge in 2026, shedding greater light in bringing the beginning stages of human and ET contact together. Some particular contacts may actually be off-worlders themselves. So this is what's really going to happen. People want to know exactly what first contact will look like. Well, do you know what's going to happen? When you see those ships come together, you are not going to see the Greys. You are not going to see reptilians. You are not going to see any particular type of non-human life form. You're going to see humans. Okay? Humans are going to make contact with humans. That's when it comes. But this is all part of a preparatory process, what we refer to as repopulation, not depopulation. Okay? Depopulation is not happening. I repeat, depopulation is not happening. What is happening is repopulation. Okay? What repopulation is very much like what I'm talking about here pertaining to the stasis bodies, where you're basically looking at souls that may have been corrupted, they've become too dirty, and they can't stay with where this world is going. They will vacate themselves. Sometimes it can happen when they're in the hospital and they have a bad accident. All of a sudden you notice that that person has changed. That person used to have green eyes, now they have blue eyes. That person used to have a very smooth face, now their face is a little bit more blocky and square-like, having a square jaw. Now that person once had cravings for mustard, now this person has cravings for ketchup. Okay? That's an often sign that when you look at that, that's often the relationship of a walk-in that has come in. Okay? And a lot of these walk-ins, some of them can just be souls that have decided to come in to volunteer. Many of them, though, are basically personnel, missionaries in that way on board these administrative vessels where their own host body is contained in suspended animation and are now starting to incarnate into these temporary vessels to live the rest of the life, while the old host is now watching that whole situation from above. Okay? So this is going to be a lot more on demand within the next 25 years, an increase of 15%. All right. Now, before we go, I do want to talk a little bit about the Saturn update. I'm also going to talk to you guys a little bit more about the Oort cloud. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about the outer star system. Okay. Now, for those of you who may notice, you may have had some informants telling you as well too, that the rings of Saturn are actually starting to thin. Okay. We're actually seeing a thinning of the rings of Saturn. That's because, and here's what's been happening with a lot of the outer planets. The outer planets have been very heavy regressive territory. When you're looking at Saturn, when you're looking at Jupiter, Jupiter is actually a little bit more supporter aligned. Not so many regressives there in Jupiter, but Saturn, lots. Okay, even in some areas of Neptune, Uranus, even in the outer areas of Pluto, you have seen a lot of regressives there. Well, what's happening is these large armada fleets are coming into the star system, and they are basically telling these regressive beings, your time is up. That's why the moon right now is going through a complete and total cleansing. There are new constitutions being signed on the moon that is not going to include any regressive races anymore. In fact, the many races that are going to be occupying the moon are going to be supporters, not regressives. When I say supporters, you could say the positives, right? The ones that are in favor to helping humanity and to help the earth. Okay? The regressives are the opposite. They want to enslave. They want to enforce. They want to centralize. So what's happening with Saturn is that ring that we have, that we see around Saturn, is not a natural phenomenon. That is technological. Okay? That is basically what you would refer to as a magnetic restraint. That magnetic restraint is basically has caused Saturn to become heavily debilitated, to make it feel like it's a demonic world, for example. Okay? But Saturn used to be our central sun. If you go back many thousands of years ago, even looking into the Greeks, the Greeks will tell you that Saturn was once a sun. Okay? And it was a sun. But that magnetic strip, that ring that's around Saturn, debilitates it from actually becoming a sun. What it's actually doing is it's reversing its own chemical process so that it actually remains much more in the idea of a gas giant rather than a sun. Anytime you see a gas giant world, that is the prelude to a sun. Okay? All gas giants are seeds for suns. So Saturn basically has that magnetic strip. It has that hold upon it like a shackle. And now what's happening is it's starting to thin out. Why is that happening? Because more and more of these regressives are being kicked out commonly from the moons of Saturn. Okay? But when you look at it from the galactic community, they don't call those moons, they call those planets. Okay? Titan is a planet. Right? So when you're looking at all of these different planets, these different moons, Titan, Callisto, etc., those are worlds, those are planes, those are planets. Okay? A planet is a plane. That's why you have Planet. It's a plane, not a planet. Okay? A plane is, again, like a realm of experience. It's not so much safeguarded in the idea of finiteness. There is an infinite nature to it. Okay? So that's another story for another time. But what's happening is all these regressive races are being booted out of their installations. The armadas that are coming here right now are being led by the ancients. Okay? These ancients are the proprietors that have helped in the genesis of the mutual collaboration that has formed the human race together. So Saturn is being vacated. And that particular cuff that has been around Saturn for quite some time is now thinning out. Not only that, but we're seeing where it's happening with Uranus. Uranus is also a shackle. It hasn't been a sun yet, but that's another shackle on Uranus because it's actually had a pole shift. Okay? It's meant to be slightly wobbly like that, but again, it has also had a lot of restriction. Why? Because it's a gateway star, or basically a gateway planetoid, a gateway gas giant. That too leads to different degrees of higher dimensional subtlety. So everything pertaining to the outer planets right now is leading to a massive evacuation relating to the regressives, because this whole star system is going to be going through a whole new transformation. So there's been some skirmishes fighting in space, and a lot of these regressives are now losing their traction and they're leaving. So Saturn is going to be restored. I can't say it's going to be restored as a sun, but it's not going to be as debilitated as it once was. Okay, there's going to be a lot more
5 minutes to go, Brad.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
You have 5 minutes to go.
Okay, we're almost done. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys here, is in regards to Saturn. Now, maybe we can talk about that more in the Q&A, or again in a future lecture as well too. Okay, but a lot of the outer systems are being evacuated from regressives, and they're going to move into new transformative measures. Okay, that's going to lead much more to supporters than regressives. All the regressives in the star system basically need to be out of here before 2038. Okay, so before 2038, you're not really going to have a single regressive around, and even if you do, they're going to have a hell of a time, right? So that's something that we can talk about more further. Final thing is in regards to the Oort cloud. If you guys are aware of the Oort cloud, which is again kind of like that ovular radiant, so you could say ovular field around the entire star system. If you actually go in there astrally, which I have, you'll notice that there's actually hundreds of Earth-like planets in the Oort cloud alone. Now, basically, when you're looking at the star system that we know as the Sol system, this actually belongs to insectoid races. Okay, insectoid races are basically the main jurisdiction of this entire star system, which means all forms of treaties have come through a lot of insectoid races. Okay, the ones that look like locusts, the ones that look like mantis, the ones that look like ants. Okay, so the insectoids are the primary jurisdiction counselors, or basically the jurisdiction administrators, that are the ones that have been signing the dotted line of treaties, because this is their territory. Earth is originally theirs. So we may start to see more signs of the insectoids coming together, but there are hundreds of Earth-like planets in the Oort cloud alone. And again, I would say a lot of the space agencies are actually aware of it, but that's the last thing they want to point their telescopes to, is finding hundreds of Earth-like planets in the Oort cloud. There's a lot more for that to come. That's something that we can talk about down the road. But again, finalizing now the presentation today. 2026 in totality. Can you shrink me down again? Okay, great. So I'm going to sum this up real quick. 2026 will lead to breaking down corrupt and stagnant systems. They will be shown no mercy to the waves of change incoming. False leaders will be exposed even beyond political arenas. Firehorse burns to the ground anything untrue and debilitating. Lies will be exposed. Oppressive agendas will be overturned. The whole bedrock of human systems based on deceit will be rampaged and thrown down. Last Firehorse year was 1966, a power year of the 60s revolution, activism, political shakeups, youth revolution, events that shaped a culture to speak out, stand up, and come together. 2026 will ignite a fire in youth, reveal false agendas and burn it up, deliver a crippling blow to establish centralized order, break down old financial establishments, offer new financial transformations, and lead to a powerful demarcation of connection between humankind and our star family. Everybody, thank you so much for sharing this presentation with me today. My website is wisdomtransmissions.com. You can also find the link here to my YouTube channel. I do private sessions. I also do what's known as a personal transcendence package. You can find that out on wisdomtransmissions.com. But this is the end of the presentation for, again, the momentum ahead for 2026. So I want to thank Michael once again for inviting me on today. Thank you again to all speakers as well. Michael, it's back to you. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for a fascinating presentation and giving people lots to think about and questions to ask.
You have been listening to Exopolitics today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.